Meghan is livid. Harry has met someone who is his age, with whom he is in love, and who is in love with him. And Meghan found out about it after she discovered texts on Harry's phone.
So, the rumor making the rounds this week is that Prince Harry has supposedly been caught up in yet another scandal.
It's so hard.
This time, it is whispers of secret messages, a mysterious woman, and a marriage that insiders claim is hanging by a thread. But here's the strange thing. The alleged affair isn't what has people talking.
They really hate each other now, and they cannot hide it anymore.
She was the villain.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
Harry was not in love with Meghan Markle.
He was madly in love. The veil is now lifted.
What has everyone talking is how completely expected it feels. Because if you've been paying attention, none of this arrived out of nowhere. The warning signs have been sitting in plain sight for months, almost daring people to connect the dots. Separate trips across Europe. Separate public appearances. Separate schedules that somehow never seem to line up.
These are the two photos of the women that people are speculating that could be the woman for Harry.
Harry returning to London time after time while Meghan stayed behind. Their interviews sounding less like a united couple and more like two people selling different stories. Even their biggest supporters have struggled to explain why they seem to spend so much of their lives apart. And now, with fresh gossip swirling, the internet's response has been almost identical everywhere. Nobody seems surprised anymore. So tonight, put the headlines about the mystery woman to one side for just a moment.
I knew Meghan for a bit before she met Harry. Did exactly the same to me, you know. She did that to many people that she knew, that she'd either worked with or was friends with or whatever. It just seems to me she's what I would call a ruthless social climber, who just when people are no longer appropriate parts of her circle, they have to be expunged quickly so she can move on up the ladder.
Absolutely.
Instead, we're going to retrace the moments that quietly predicted this long before the latest rumors exploded. The public appearances that felt painfully awkward. The vacations they didn't spend together. The body language experts who thought something was seriously wrong. The critics who accused Meghan of controlling the narrative. And the growing question of whether the prince who walked away from royal life for love is now wondering if the price was far greater than he ever imagined.
Do you think your sister, Meghan Markle, has ruined Prince Harry?
The answer is yes. I mean, every single interview, every single picture, every place they go, Meghan grabs him. Meghan controls him. Meghan tells him no. Meghan stands in front of him. She controls every single situation like she is the star. And she's turned Prince Harry into a man of non-substance, you know, for her own well-being.
Stay with me. Every chapter leaves another clue behind. Let's wind the clock back, because long before California, Netflix deals, and endless headlines, there was a very different Prince Harry. Not the man constantly photographed at carefully planned appearances, but the prince who, by his own account, was desperately trying to carve out something that looked like a normal life.
Girl, woman, girlfriend, friend, however you want to put it, and I'm putting it like this for legal reasons, resides, and I'm not going to say if it's actually in Montecito or near Montecito, but it's in the environs. People have seen them together. Oh dear, my goodness, Harry's growing. Is it a backbone? Or, my goodness, maybe he's not going to be able to juggle those balls outside of windows anymore, because maybe they're going to be attached instead of detached. That would be progress, wouldn't it?
And standing beside him through much of that chapter was Chelsy Davy. For years, their relationship unfolded in full view of the British tabloids, yet Harry has since described it as one of the happiest periods of his life. More importantly, he has repeatedly argued in court that relentless media attention placed extraordinary pressure on the relationship. Those aren't anonymous claims from unnamed insiders. They are arguments Harry himself chose to make in a courtroom. When Harry took the witness stand during his legal battles against British newspaper publishers, he didn't simply speak about privacy in the abstract.
He loved her a lot, and she really loved him, and they had great fun together, and he liked it because she wasn't worried about the royal family. That wasn't a big deal for her. She just fitted in very easily.
He described a world where photographers, stories, and constant scrutiny shaped almost every decision he made. According to his testimony, the atmosphere created fear, suspicion, and an overwhelming feeling that there was no escape from public attention. Whether people agree with him or not, those court appearances revealed something significant. Years after the relationship had ended, he still viewed that period as a defining chapter in his life. His memoir reinforced that impression. Harry openly reflected on the difficulty of balancing royal responsibilities with a personal relationship, suggesting that life inside the royal spotlight carried costs far beyond what the public could see.
Totally miserable, totally allowing his negative past to take over him, all of these court battles, and just a great sense of sadness, actually, and anger connected to him.
He wrote about the pressures surrounding relationships and acknowledged that the institution, media attention, and constant public interest often made ordinary experiences feel almost impossible. For supporters, those admissions explained many of his later decisions. For critics, they raised questions about whether he had ever truly come to terms with the realities of royal life. Chelsy eventually chose a different path, building her own career away from royal duties and the relentless attention that followed Harry everywhere he went. Yet one moment has often stood out to royal observers. In 2018, she attended Harry and Meghan's wedding at Windsor Castle alongside hundreds of invited guests. Cameras briefly captured her during the ceremony, and ever since, that appearance has become one of those images repeatedly revisited whenever discussions turn to Harry's past. Some see it as a simple gesture of respect. Others read far more into it. Either way, the photograph has never quite disappeared from the public conversation.
So he started having affairs with all sorts of other girls, and she got very upset, and he didn't go and see her for a long time, so she went off and left him. Now that's his fault, 100% his fault.
By the time Harry married Meghan, many believed he had finally found the partner willing to embrace the extraordinary life that previous relationships had struggled to accept. Their wedding was celebrated around the world as the beginning of a modern royal chapter, attracting millions of viewers and enormous global attention. At the time, the optimism was unmistakable. Few imagined that within only a few years the conversation would shift so dramatically, from fairy tale headlines to endless debate over interviews, memoirs, lawsuits, family tensions, and public perception.
Prince Harry is heartbroken all over again. Now, of course, this is something that he is never going to admit publicly, especially as his marriage to Meghan Markle crumbles.
Looking back now, some commentators argue that Harry never truly escaped the pressures he spent years criticizing. Instead, they believe those pressures simply evolved into something different. Rather than disappearing, the spotlight followed him across the Atlantic, becoming larger in some ways and more complicated in others. The battles changed, the setting changed, and the audience changed, but the attention never really faded. And that brings us to the next chapter, because if you want to understand why so many people began questioning the state of Harry and Meghan's public partnership, you don't start with the latest headlines. You start by looking at the calendar, and noticing how often their paths appeared to be heading in different directions. If you want to understand why the latest round of speculation spread so quickly, forget the headlines for a moment and look at something much simpler, the calendar. Over the past few years, royal watchers, entertainment reporters, and social media users have increasingly noticed that Harry and Meghan often appear at different events, in different cities, and sometimes even on different continents. On its own, that proves nothing.
How many tears left I? How many? Oh. I think we'd better get a bottle of champagne to sort of get everybody calm.
High-profile couples frequently divide responsibilities. But in the court of public opinion, patterns tend to attract attention long before official statements ever do. Take the past year as an example. Meghan attended several public engagements focused on business, media, and philanthropy, often appearing without Harry at her side. Harry, meanwhile, continued dedicating much of his time to causes closely associated with him, particularly the Invictus Games and charitable projects connected to veterans and mental health. Supporters described the arrangement as practical. They argued that each was simply pursuing separate professional priorities while still working toward shared goals. Critics saw the same schedule very differently, suggesting it reflected two increasingly independent public lives. That difference in interpretation became a story in itself. Every solo appearance generated fresh discussion online. Every photograph was analyzed. Every absence became another question. When Meghan walked a red carpet alone, some commentators praised her independence.
Simmering tension between the duplicitous Duke and his facelift-enhanced wife. Here's the red carpet arrival.
Hey, Harry, when are you going upstairs?
Others immediately asked why Harry was missing. When Harry attended events overseas without Meghan, the same conversation resurfaced in reverse. In today's media environment, silence often becomes a headline of its own. The couple's professional evolution added another layer to that conversation. In recent years, their projects have become more individually focused. Meghan has launched lifestyle ventures and media initiatives carrying her own branding, while Harry has continued emphasizing his charitable work, public speaking, and long-standing commitment to veterans through the Invictus Games. From a business perspective, many analysts viewed that as a logical strategy. Building separate professional identities can expand opportunities and reduce dependence on joint appearances. Yet among royal commentators,
this is her in the car videoing herself with her legs up as she went past the tunnel in which Diana Spencer was so tragically killed in Paris.
It also fueled endless debate about whether the couple's public image was gradually shifting from Harry and Meghan to two distinct brands operating side by side. Body language analysts also entered the discussion, offering competing interpretations of the couple's appearances together. Some suggested they appeared comfortable and supportive despite intense scrutiny. Others argued their interactions seemed more formal than in earlier years. It's important to note that body language analysis is subjective, not scientific evidence of what people are thinking or feeling. Even so, such commentary often spreads rapidly online, shaping public perception regardless of whether those conclusions are accurate. Meanwhile, Harry continued speaking openly about issues that have defined much of his public life: security, privacy, and the media. During interviews and legal proceedings, he repeatedly explained that protecting his family remained one of his highest priorities. He has argued that intrusive coverage and security concerns continue to influence many of his decisions, particularly regarding travel to the United Kingdom. Those statements have remained consistent over several years, regardless of how commentators interpret the couple's schedules. Public reaction, however, has grown increasingly divided. Supporters argue that Harry and Meghan are simply adapting to life outside the royal institution, balancing careers, parenting, philanthropy, and public expectations. Critics believe their independent appearances, changing business ventures, and reduced number of joint engagements suggest a different story altogether. Neither side lacks confidence, and every new event quickly becomes evidence for one argument or the other. By this stage, the discussion had evolved beyond individual appearances. It was no longer just about where Harry or Meghan happened to be on a particular day. It had become a much broader debate about identity, priorities, and the future of one of the world's most closely watched couples. And once that narrative took hold, every fresh rumor, whether verified or entirely speculative, found an audience already prepared to connect it to a story they believed had been unfolding for years. By this point, the conversation surrounding Harry and Meghan had become much bigger than any single headline. It was no longer just about interviews, documentaries, or memoirs. Instead, it had turned into a running debate about whether the couple who once promised to redefine royal life were still moving toward the same future.
Meghan is doing her own thing. Harry, go whatever with you. I'm doing what I want.
Every public appearance, every speech, and every new project was examined through that lens. The facts often stayed the same, but the interpretations could not have been more different. Harry, for his part, has never hidden the fact that Britain still occupies a unique place in his life. Across interviews, public appearances, and his memoir, he has spoken about his military service, his connection to the country, and his hope that his children can understand that part of their family history. He has also said that concerns over security have complicated visits to the United Kingdom. Those are his stated reasons, and they remain central to understanding why his relationship with Britain continues to generate discussion. Commentators, however, have reached very different conclusions. Some believe Harry genuinely hopes for a gradual improvement in family relationships, even if reconciliation remains difficult. Others argue that years of public disagreements have created wounds that will not heal anytime soon. Former palace staff, royal authors, journalists, and television personalities frequently offer conflicting opinions, each convinced they understand what is happening behind palace walls. The result is a constant stream of analysis that often says as much about the commentators as it does about the people they are discussing. Public opinion has shifted as well. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, many people viewed the decision as a bold attempt to create a more independent life. Others saw it as a rejection of an institution that had supported them. Since then, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, charitable initiatives, and business ventures have all influenced how different audiences see the couple.
I think that's most likely the neatest, cleanest, and most cost-effective way, let's put it that way, of resolving a problem. Because I know people would like to have a massive ruling that the king has decided in council that he's stripping Harry of his titles and the children are out of the line of succession. That's pie in the sky. That's not how things work on a legal level or a governmental level.
Supporters continue to admire their willingness to speak openly about mental health, media pressure, and personal challenges. Critics argue that repeated public disputes have overshadowed many of those messages. That changing public mood helps explain why recent rumors spread so quickly online. Once people begin viewing every development through the same narrative, speculation often travels faster than confirmed information. Social media rewards dramatic theories, and anonymous sources can generate enormous attention within hours. Yet attention is not the same as evidence. Rumors may dominate headlines for a few days, but without reliable confirmation, they remain exactly that, rumors. Perhaps the most revealing part of this entire story is not any single claim making the rounds on the internet. It is how differently people react to them. Some immediately dismiss them as another chapter in an endless cycle of tabloid speculation. Others believe they fit a pattern they think has been developing for years. The same headline can produce two completely opposite reactions depending on what someone already believes about Harry and Meghan. And maybe that is the real story. Few public figures in recent memory have inspired such sharply divided opinions. To some, they are a couple determined to build a new life despite extraordinary pressure. To others, they symbolize promises that never quite matched reality. Between those two views lies a space filled with headlines, commentary, and endless speculation. Whatever the future holds, one thing seems certain. As long as Harry and Meghan remain among the world's most recognizable public figures, every decision they make will continue to be examined from every possible angle. New stories will appear, new debates will begin, and familiar questions will return again and again. Because in the world of modern royalty, the headlines rarely mark the end of the story. More often than not, they are simply the beginning of the next chapter. So, this is where the story really leaves us. Strip away the headlines, the viral clips, and the endless online theories, and one question remains. How did one of the most talked about couples in the world go from representing a fresh start to becoming the subject of constant debate? Depending on who you ask, the answer is completely different. Some see two people trying to build a life under impossible levels of scrutiny. Others see a couple whose public image has slowly drifted apart, one appearance, one interview, and one headline at a time. The truth is that only Harry and Meghan know what their relationship looks like behind closed doors. Everything else, every photograph, every separate engagement, every anonymous source, and every rumor, is interpreted through the lens of public opinion. That is why every news story spreads so quickly. People aren't just reacting to the latest headline. They're reacting to the narrative they already believe. Whatever happens next, one thing is almost certain. The attention isn't going away. Every appearance will be analyzed. Every trip will be questioned. Every statement will be picked apart. And until Harry and Meghan decide to tell a new chapter of their story, or choose not to, everyone else will keep trying to write it for them. Now I want to hear what you think. Do you believe the public reads far too much into every move they make? Or do you think the recent changes in their public lives naturally invite questions? Share your perspective in the comments below. I read as many of them as I can, and I'm always interested to see where the conversation goes. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps the channel reach more people who enjoy thoughtful discussions like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we'll be following every major development as it happens and breaking down the facts, the reactions, and everything in between. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.